another episode of Strong Style. I'm the Outlaw. Here, John Rocha, one of the hosts for this show. I'm not wearing the hat today because I just finished doing a live stream for 2 hours and jumped right into this thing. And so I don't want to be all sweaty with two lights dancing on me as well. But I am joined by the person who never gets sweaty, even though he's down there in the hottest state in the country, Florida. That is Aaron Turner. How are you, man?
Good, man. No, I get sweaty. And yeah, I'm actually fresh out of the shower because I was sweaty. It was about 85 this evening, so we're getting up there. We're getting up there already.
It's that Florida humidity, man. That's the thing that kills you.
Yeah, that's what gets you. But yeah, I'm clean now. I promise.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, today we're talking about, Elimination Chamber just finished over the weekend, Aaron. So this week we're talking about the first ever women's Elimination Chamber. There's a lot to get into. We're also going to talk about that Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. But the thing I want to start with here is the thing that I've started to hear from a number of people, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think WrestleMania is going to be canceled because of coronavirus? We just saw today, as we're recording this, a couple of conferences in the basketball NCAA men's tournaments, they canceled their postseason tournaments and just had their first team just go in automatically into March Madness. So do you think this will happen with WrestleMania?
Listen, man, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a world leader, but I kind of think I know Vince McMahon, and I would have to say that you would have to drop an atomic bomb on Tampa for there not to be WrestleMania, and then you still might even have it. So I think by the time WrestleMania rolls around here, we still got about 3 weeks. We'll kind of see where we're at there. I don't see them canceling it at all. There's too much money for the city of Tampa. There's too much that goes along. I know that Coachella was postponed. They canceled South by Southwest.
That's shocking.
Yeah, that was a stunner. So there's a lot of things going on. There were some conferences here actually that got canceled. The president was supposed to speak at, and they got canceled. So I don't know. I venture to say no, and I hope not, because I'm going and I've spent a lot of money to go. I know that sounds kind of selfish, but I don't see it happening. But don't take my word for it. If you're making your travel plans, maybe get that traveler's insurance just in case. But I'll go with no for now.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring this up too is because I'm starting to see it's not just people. WrestleMania is not like Royal Rumble or one of the smaller. And I don't mean smaller by comparison. I don't mean smaller because of stature. Pay-per-views that they have. WrestleMania, that's an international show. So people are coming from other countries, like Italy, like Spain, like the UK, like China, like these places that have been hit harder by the coronavirus. Not the UK necessarily, but the other countries definitely. And so Russia, is this a concern for fans who are going to WrestleMania? Because look, this I don't think anyone's going to be mad at me saying this. Wrestling fans aren't the most cleanest people in the world. It's no different.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's no different than a Comic-Con. They do definitely cancel Comic-Con if they haven't handled this coronavirus thing before July. So to me, you look at WrestleMania, this is a lot of people who come to these things in a massive arena. And all the food, the service people making the food, there are a lot of possibilities where you could catch this thing. And if someone gets away from self-quarantine, they could infect a lot of people.
Well, what I've said, and this is going to sound silly, so just bear with me, but it's like, listen, I'm a wrestling fan. I go to conventions. I was at a convention over the weekend. I've been to Disney 3 out of the last 4 days. If I'm going to get coronavirus, I already got it. So sorry, everybody. I've already got it. WrestleMania, the big thing about WrestleMania that's different from these other places is it's outside, which probably helps a lot. Tampa's an outdoor stadium, and WrestleCon, which is a huge wrestling convention, is right next door, which is also outside. So I think maybe your smaller events, your ones that are run by these indie promotions, may get a little dicey, but WrestleMania and WrestleCon probably not.
I think the other thing to worry about, and we'll wrap up here and move on to our main topics here, Aaron, is, well, what about these fan access shows? Are people still going to be meeting the fans? Are they going to be taking pictures with the fans? That's a really huge part of WrestleMania now over the last decade or so, having that fan access situation. Will wrestlers not want to be a part of it because it could affect them and affect them participating in WrestleMania? Because once they discover you've got this thing, they put you in quarantine immediately. There's no questions asked. No matter what your status is, they put you in quarantine. Do you think this will affect the access that they've had before?
It's a great question, and I can tell you that if you go to an NXT live show, they do meet and greets before every show with about 3 superstars. And I know from a couple of friends of mine that go through the whole loop, they have instituted a no-touch policy.
Wow.
Until the coronavirus is over. So for now, at least at NXT live events, there is no contact between the wrestlers and the fans. So
the irony is we have
that for what's worth.
The irony is we have that free-for-all coming up in LA for the Schmoed, and I'll probably crowd surfing amongst everybody, so I'll be getting touched all over the place.
Gross.
So
don't let them touch your face. Don't let them touch your face. Well, you do wear a mask, so just wear the mask the whole time.
I might just wear the mask. And one last thing, and this is what I'll say on it, because a lot of people have been asking about it, whether it's going to be canceled. Vince McMahon carried on with the pay-per-view after Owen Hart died. So to me, I think you're right about the nuclear bomb thing. I think by any means necessary, he will make that WrestleMania happen. I think it'd be different if this was like, no holds barred or Elimination Chamber. This is the crown jewel, for lack of a better term, of the year for the WWE, and it would take an extreme thing to happen for them to cancel it. So
let me put a cherry on top of it, because Vince McMahon once wrestled God in a match, so Vince McMahon fears nothing.
That's a fair point. Jesus
not God,
Christ.
not the coronavirus.
I totally forgot about that. Jesus Christ. All right. Anyway, so like I said at the top of the show, what we're going to talk about is the first ever women's Elimination Chamber match, but we're going to get into the history that led us all into it and talk about that. Do you want to jump into the actual Elimination Chamber that's happening this weekend first, or do you want to jump into this?
Yeah, I'll talk about it briefly, because it's basically one-sided. So you had Shayna Baszler versus Ruby Riott versus Natalya versus Sarah Logan versus Liv Morgan versus Asuka. And it started out pretty good with Natalya and Ruby Riott, and then Sarah Logan got in there and did a couple things. And then once Shayna Baszler got in there, that's it, because she choked everybody out and won the thing. And I know a lot of people didn't like it, but it reminded me of Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble this past year, where he was just eliminating and dominating everybody, and then eventually Drew McIntyre got one over on him. Eventually, someone's going to get one over on Shayna. Is it going to be Becky? I don't know. Is she going to run right through Becky? I don't know. We'll see. But I think from jump, Shayna Baszler was going to be your winner. She won in dominant fashion. She had a great showing in the Royal Rumble earlier this year.
Yeah.
She's a 2-time NXT Women's Champion. She's the real deal. She's great. And this was just a showcase for her, just basically running roughshod through the entire Raw Women's division, minus Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. But damn, what a showing from her. And to win, she didn't pin anybody. She choked out everybody. So
including Asuka,
which was an awesome, which we kind of thought there, or at least I did towards the end, that it was going to be her and Asuka for a good bit of time, but it didn't end up going that way. And they had plenty of time left in the show to do it, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe Asuka's hand injury. But yeah, WrestleMania, it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. I'm excited to see that one.
Well, that's the return of Ronda, right? She comes out and helps Shayna win the title. That's what's going to happen. I feel like that's what's going to happen. I think Ronda's, or they'll do the bait and switch where Ronda's going to come out to help Becky against Shayna, and then Ronda turns face in that situation. A lot of people thought it was going to be the 4 horsewomen versus the 4 horsewomen, it's been built up for a couple of years now, but it could be a twist where Ronda comes out to help Becky against Shayna Baszler. So that's certainly in play.
I think you're more likely to not get that for another good while, because Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir haven't even been on NXT TV for a while. So I don't know if their development's slow. I don't know what's going on with them, or if they're just waiting to bring them up to the main roster. But it's not like they're winning any takeover matches right now. Yeah. So that one's probably still going to be on the back burner for a while.
I haven't been impressed by them at all. Like I've seen them wrestle, and they're certainly decent wrestlers, but there's nothing that separates them from any other female decent wrestler. So other than the name, other than the connection to Ronda and the connection to Shayna, other than that, they haven't really wowed me or impressed me in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of like the Riot Squad. Once you get past Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan is good, but Sarah Logan is a drop from there. So to me, those are those things that you see here in the same faction. When you look at Becky, you look at Charlotte, you look at Sasha, you look at Bayley. There's not a weakness amongst all 4 of those ladies. You look at Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke, and you're not really intimidated by those ladies going into the ring against those 4. So it would surprise me if they actually went ahead with this, because I don't think the level is there, to be honest with you.
Another side note, just real quick, and we'll put a bow on the Elimination Chamber. Sarah Logan, a lot of people have been asking what is her character, because she just comes out in camo pants and this weird black paint. Yeah. I'm here to tell you that she's from Kentucky. I'm from West Virginia. I know exactly what her character is. She's the girl that it was in my science class that would skip school to go deer hunting and had a chaw in. Yep. That's who Sarah Logan is. That's her character, if you wanted to know. She's a hillbilly redneck girl, and it's totally fine.
Fair enough. Anything else out of the Elimination Chamber? Anything that you liked or that excited you at all, or do you think it was just kind of okay?
I mean, other than the women's match ending exactly as I thought it would, I'm glad Sami Zayn won the Intercontinental title. It's long overdue. I like Sami a whole hell of a lot. I just wish it was the white Intercontinental title, not that abomination that they have now. But, yeah, big things for Sami Zayn. Really love him.
All right. What about the tag team? Did you enjoy the tag team Elimination Chamber? Or do you think it was kind of flaccid?
I think it was kind of stupid. But Miz and Morrison were going to win from jump, so it's kind of... whatever.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. All right, well, that's less said about that Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, the better. So we're going to move on from that. Definitely watch the women's match. If you haven't watched that one, that was a fun one to watch. Absolutely. And yeah, you may not like the way it ended, but Shayna, they've been building Shayna up, and I like the WWE is not afraid to take creative chances with characters like her and Lesnar and put them in situations where they realistically could choke out everybody they face. It'll be interesting to see if what Sonya Deville has something to say. She's an MMA fighter. Maybe she has something with Shayna Baszler. Could be fun to see let those two let loose in the ring. Get those two let loose in the ring. We'll see. But anyway, let's move on to our big topic here, and that is the Elimination Chamber, the first ever women's Elimination Chamber. Aaron, please give us the history here.
So let's go ahead and let's talk about, because going into this, we're talking about the women's revolution, which started about 2014. In my opinion, is where it really started. You have, of course, Trish Stratus and Lita before that doing their thing on Monday Night Raw. Victoria, Molly Holly. We had some people kind of here and there, Jazz, just kind of putting on good women's matches, but it was never the focus of the show. They were just basically, hey, go out there, these perfect 10 models. You know, later on you had Melina, who could wrestle, and then you had Maurice, and you had these other Eve and Kelly, and it's just kind of like, what are we even doing here? But then after a while, we started getting in NXT. We started to get the rebirth of the women's division with Paige, with Emma, aka Tennille Dashwood, and real wrestlers that wanted to wrestle. So we started at NXT TakeOver Arrival in 2014, with the main event was the first ever NXT Women's Championship match between Paige and Emma, which Paige did win. And that really kicked it off. You had AJ Lee, who was the Divas champion at the time. So AJ Lee and Caitlyn were both doing big things on the main roster. And then that evolved into the influx of the four horsewomen. Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Becky Lynch, they all were in at the same time. They really took it to the next level. Then in came Asuka, Nia Jax, and then we have, of course, now we have Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, Chelsea Green, just you name a, Rhea Ripley, of course. You just, the more Tony Storm, just the more talent that keeps getting bolstered into that division. Bianca Belair is another one I forgot that's amazing, but yeah, I mean, that's really where it started to kick off. And then we got the first Women's Royal Rumble. Then we got the first all-women's pay-per-view and Evolution. And I really think that the person who really pushed this forward outside of the four horsewomen is, of course, Ronda Rousey. Mm-hmm. And I think adding her, even though she had lost 2 fights going into her WWE career, she was unstoppable before that. She took women's MMA to the next level. By beating Miesha Tate and Strikeforce and becoming their champion and becoming the first UFC women's champion. And it blew up from there. And they used that star power to really make women's wrestling even more mainstream. And I think Ronda should get more credit from the WWE fans. I feel like the fans are kind of up and down on her. I think she's awesome. I think she was such a shot in the arm to that division. I think I want her back. She's been gone for a year. I really, really want her back in the game. And you had your first all women's main event at WrestleMania this past year with Becky, Ronda, and Charlotte. So that's really what kicked this off. I mean, going back, what's some wrestlers that you kind of keyed in on that, hey, okay, this women's division's really making a surge here?
I think it was always Sasha. For me, that was, I mean, like Sasha and Bayley having that match that the farewell match, the Bayley farewell match, and then the Iron Woman match, right? So, well, I think the Iron Woman match was a farewell match, but the match before them at Takeover, that I will still argue that's one of the top 10 matches ever in the history of the WWE for the significance of it all, but also for the talent level. Look, Charlotte is a good wrestler. Becky is a good wrestler, but Sasha and Bayley, to me, are next level with their chemistry. And those two matches, certainly the first match over the second match, shows you how great they really are and how great women's wrestling could be. And so for me, that was what was the thing that I remember the most. Charlotte, of course, with the connection to Flair was great. I always had a thing for Becky Lynch, thought she was very pretty, cute. And so the fact that she could wrestle, I always thought she was kind of like the forgotten one of the four, and it was frustrating to watch. So when she blew up, that was great to see. But I'm from that time where we had Trish Stratus. I'm from that time we had Fabulous Moolah. You know, I remember Wendy Richter. So I've seen women's wrestling evolve, for lack of a better term, over the years. And yes, they had that run where it was all the divas and it was all these hot chicks they were trying to teach to wrestle, like Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson, and even Trish Stratus a little bit, because Trish was a fitness model, I think, when she came in, but she took to it like crazy. Mickie James is another one that people don't talk about enough. Mickie James was incredible for what she did in the ring. That whole psycho thing of hers, that kind of changed the game for the women's division, these characters that they could play. Molly Holly, I was a big fan of. Victoria, I thought. Victoria's another one that people forget about as well. Victoria was able to do it in WCW and TNA and in WWE. She was successful in every venue you put her in. Those are the ones that I remember. Who was the one in the PTC? Who was the Ivory?
Oh, Ivory,
yeah. Ivory or
Hall
Jacqueline. Yeah, Hall of Famer Ivory Jacqueline as well. So there was a lot. There was a history of good wrestlers. Then they went to the pretty girls, and once the combo of both was found in NXT, that's what really changed the game. Look, you can't lie and say it isn't their looks that isn't a part of it. Of course, Sasha's beautiful. Bayley's certainly attractive. Charlotte, a lot of people think Charlotte's beautiful. Becky Lynch is attractive. That's part of the game, but they can also kick some serious ass in the ring. So when you have the combo of both, that's a fantastic situation for a mostly male demographic fan base. So to me, I think those are those things that you wanted to see. I think the fans' tastes changed. They were tired of seeing, got to give love to Lita as well. Lita is one of those, wrestlers who was trained down in Mexico with the luchadors. She took hits like bumps like nobody's business in the ring in her prime. So what people wanted, there was always these wrestlers that could wrestle, these female wrestlers that could wrestle. It was when they went the Divas route that people enjoyed it for a little bit, but then there was such a backlash because people wanted to see real athletes go at it, real athletes go toe to toe, and you got that at NXT all over the place, and it was great to see. And some of those women are still down there. Candice LeRae fought, I think, Alexa Bliss at one point, and so there's still women in NXT who are kicking ass down there as much as there are women in the top in the WWE and Raw and SmackDown who are kicking ass as well.
I think that's why people really have gravitated towards Rhea Ripley. She's got like one hell of a following because when Rhea first started, they did a vignette on Raw. Like, she looked like Charlotte Flair. She was like cookie cutter, long blonde hair, very athletic looking. I mean, she's still very athletic looking, but then she just came into her own and became who she really is. And damn, man, she's been on a tear ever since. I love watching her. Got the punk attitude. She just does what she wants, and I think that's really cool of her. And I think she's really the evolution. Her and Bianca Belair are like the next evolution of super athletic, good looking, just all the tools of the trade, being their own person. And I think that's really awesome. Of course, Charlotte's got the legacy, and Bayley's got her in-ring skills and all that kind of good stuff. But Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair are two female wrestlers that I kind of peg as the next big things in the women's division.
I think Toni Storm has to be in that conversation too at some point down the road. I like Toni Storm a lot and what she's done because she's a woman with larger hips and a larger look to her at the bottom area, but she completely kicks ass when she's in that ring. Do you know what I'm saying? And so those are those things that I like, that there's so many different body types that are successful athletically in the WWE as women, because you got to create that space to have different body types be successful so that no one's feeling like, they're only looking for one thing like they did during the Kelly years and the Stacy Keibler years and the Tori Wilson years, there's numerous body types that are successful. Muscular, a little softer, a little bigger in certain areas, a little thinner in other areas. That's great to see, so I love that you've got such a variety of body types, because guess what? They have the same thing in the men's division. A bunch of body types all over the place that could be contending for belts. I mean, you compare Otis to someone like, someone like Ricochet.
Belts.
Like those are two different body types, but they both could win belts. And that's what you wanted to see in the women's division, for it to evolve, where you have numerous women who have different body types and can be successful and in contention for belts. That's important.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Tony Storm, the hips that kill. That's what she calls them. But
they are.
I mean, it's amazing to see how far we've come, and I'm glad that I kind of got to ride that initial wave of NXT, because I took to it because of Adrian Neville, aka Pac, and I just started seeing Paige and Emma, and even Summer Rae there for a little bit was doing well. I got to see Becky and Charlotte come up and see what they could do, and I knew they would be stars because they took to it like ducks to water, and it's just been awesome to see. But let's go ahead and let's talk about the 2018 Elimination Chamber, because this is a big deal, because we're coming off of the Royal Rumble, the first ever, which Asuka won, and she went on to lose at WrestleMania. That's another story for another time. But we had Mickie James versus Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville versus Sasha Banks versus Bayley versus the Raw Women's Champion at the time, Alexa Bliss, for the Raw Women's Championship, Columbus's own. Just forget about that part of it.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was Bayley and Sonya to start us off, and then Mandy came in, and it became just this big 2-on-1 scenario where Bayley had to keep fighting back.
Well, we should say something, Aaron. We should say something first. Alexa Bliss coming into the match, the storyline was that she was upset that she was having to defend her belt when the men's champion wasn't having to defend his belt in the Elimination Chamber. Brock Lesnar, being the champion at the time, was not. And so she was mad at Stephanie that Stephanie was making her defend the belt. This rare moment of women's rights creeping into the WWE. They don't usually get too political at WWE. So the fact that this was something they allowed to be a storyline, I thought was pretty essential to showing how powerful the women's division had become, where it could take center stage and complain about unfairness at the workplace based on gender discrimination. That was her angle, and I really enjoyed that. So I'm sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to throw that in. Alexa was super upset about having to defend her belt. Played that really well.
Well, we'll talk about later on her issues with Nia Jax and how that all played out later on. But yeah, Bayley had to take on Sonya and Mandy, and I got to tell you, man, like, I know a lot of people think that Mandy Rose is just a pretty face, and she does have a pretty face. But I think in this match, she kicked a lot of ass. I think, like, her double was really her time to shine. Like, her and Sonya really got to shine in this match for being newer talents. This is when Absolution was pretty much brand new with Paige. And, like, if you watch this past Chamber, you saw that Sarah Logan, Ruby Riott, and Liv Morgan, the former Riott Squad, didn't really get that chance to shine on their own. They really just got limited time before they got their ass kicked. But in this match, Sonya and Mandy really got to show what they could do, and I'm kind of surprised that of all the times, like, they've had women's title matches with, the Iconics had their reign, and you can say what you want about them.
Reign, yeah.
I'm kind of surprised they can run. I'm surprised they kind of haven't taken a flyer on Mandy and Sonya, because they're likable. If you watch their YouTube channel, they're hilarious. Yeah. They're good friends. They have good chemistry. I think their matches are somewhat good. So, I mean, why not give them a run with the titles?
Yeah,
other than the Iconics.
Aaron, I don't disagree with you at all. It's something that Ryan and I had contention with all the time, because I liked their Donuts show. He hated their Donuts show, or didn't like their Donuts show, shall I say. And I thought they were a perfect personality, but it may be because they're not ready yet to put the belt on a openly gay person yet. I mean, that certainly could be a conversation to have. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm saying you can't ignore that possibility, certainly, because, like, once again, the WWE appeals more to the red state stuff. Is the red state ready to accept someone who's openly gay? But that's why I give so much kudos to Sonya for being upfront about it. She's not in your face about it. It's just very simple, and she presents herself in a certain way. She's tough as nails, MMA fighter. Put your hair up and square up. I love that. I always wanted to buy that T-shirt. She's great at that kind of stuff, and I agree with you. And Mandy has come along. Even in 2018, she was good here, man. I agree with you. She's even better now. It's just a matter of like, well, can you give them the straps and let them see what they can do with it, because they have pitched this as a tag team, as potential tag team champions for such a long time, from Absolution into what are they, Ice and Fire or Glow, whatever it is, like that kind of stuff.
Fire and Desire.
They've pitched them for so long that at some point, I agree with you, Aaron, you got to put the straps on them eventually and see what they can do, because I think Mandy Rose could absolutely blow up, and Sonya as well, as something that little girls could look up to, but also people who are watching it could respect as champions.
Yeah, because I look at Mandy and I see somebody that could be, I mean, she doesn't have to be, but she could be the next Trish Stratus, because Trish started as a pretty face, possible. and then she worked her ass off and became quite the wrestler, Hall of Famer. Yeah. And Sonya DeVille, I mean, sky's the limit for her, man. She could be the next Shayna Baszler for all we know.
She has all the tools, man. She has all the tools.
Absolutely. And it's just stuff like that made me want to go back and watch this match, because I know that they're good. And when they get their time, they're kind of in a storyline right now with Dolph Ziggler and Otis of Heavy Machinery. So it's kind of a mess. And their match,
I don't like that storyline.
I love Otis though.
I love Otis, to see him but you're turning Mandy into an object of desire. Like you're exactly what's the opposite of what you want to do with someone like that, which is play to the lowest common denominator and make her a sex object. And I think that's not necessary in this situation, and to cause some kind of division between Fire and Desire. I think they have to do something with them, so they throw in this storyline in there, and it's unnecessary because they're just so good together. Why not just do what's so obviously right in front of your face and let them fly? Let them just give them a chance. Because look what happened. You gave Becky a chance. She blew the hell up. Give Mandy a chance. You never know what can happen to wrestlers once you give them a chance. At least when you give them a chance, you can say, well, we tried it, and the fans didn't gravitate to it. People didn't like it. And so at least we gave you a chance at it. But they've earned their opportunity. And so being lost in these other storylines that just serve the other person more than it serves them makes no sense to me at all. Because Otis hasn't earned the credit that those two have. He barely got called up to the roster like 6 to 8 months ago. They've been on the roster for years. And so I think they deserve to be the central part of the storyline versus being the object of someone's affection, in my opinion.
Well, they were allegedly pitched a lesbian storyline, which they shut down. So I'm glad that happened, because they weren't comfortable with it. So if they're not comfortable with it, I'm not comfortable with it. So let's get rid of that. But after Fire and Desire get their beat down of Bayley, they don't eliminate her because Bayley keeps fighting back. And then in comes Sasha. Yeah. And then the match really starts to pick up. As these two you could tell, like, these were going to be your first tag team champions whenever they got those belts. They're just so good together. Like you mentioned earlier, they fought each other all over the world. They know exactly what's going on. They eliminate both Mandy and Sonya. And then in comes poor Mickie James. Poor Mickie James comes into this. She's dressed as Wonder Woman. She's looking great. Yeah. She rolls in and is immediately defeated by Bayley and Sasha, leaving Alexa by herself to face both Sasha and Bayley. What a cool moment. And poor Alexa with those wide eyes. And then when she finally got picked to come out of the cage, she didn't come out. She didn't come out of the pod. She held on to the door. She's like, I'm not coming out. And then she tried to climb on top of the cage, and then she got cornered. And then this match really started to kick into high gear, because then Sasha turned on Bayley, and then we had a true triple threat match. And of course, Sasha and Bayley are jumping off of stuff. Then Alexa does a twisted bliss from the top of a pod, and it was bedlam chaos. Bayley gets eliminated down to Sasha and Alexa. Did you think that's how this was going to go?
Yeah, I had a feeling that Sasha would be involved in the mix at the end with Alexa. But I thought they were going to put the strap on Sasha. I remember distinctly that I thought they were going to give the strap to Sasha and let her go on a run, because that's another one that we could have a conversation about. I don't understand why the WWE's never put the strap on Sasha for an extended run. They always have her lose it right after she gets it. They always put her in these storylines with Bayley. They put her in this stuff, and they totally waste her. Meanwhile, Charlotte has 9 million opportunities to win the belt all the time. Becky has held on to that thing because of ratings. But Sasha is a goddamn good wrestler and deserves a run as a heel with that belt around her waist, winning however she can. And so that's the frustrating part of it all. So I thought it would end up this way. I didn't see Alexa winning, heel versus heel. I didn't think Alexa was going to take this thing. And when she did, I actually thought it made sense the way they set it up. Because Sasha, because of what she was able to do to Sasha in the end. I thought it was like pushing her into the, by the way, which looked real, pushing her into the window of the cage head first, and then catching with a DDT off the top rope, which was beautiful, and finishing her off. Alexa gets a lot of shit from the fans, which I don't understand, that she can't wrestle or that she's a moderate wrestler. It's a bunch of shit. She can tell a story in the ring really, really well. She plays the victim so well in rings when she's a heel. But when she wants to throw her physical stuff into it, she throws it. And like you said, off the pod, a Twisted Bliss off the top of the pod and took the knees to the stomach. Like it wasn't a successful Twisted Bliss. So all these things she does in the match, I think she gets unfairly vilified for not being a good wrestler or a real wrestler. She puts her body on the line, takes some incredible bumps for such a small frame, and deserves way more credit than she gets from wrestling fans, in my opinion. And this match proved it too.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because I was going to go with that tangent as well. Because if she's going to take enough risk to jump off of that pod and do the Twisted Bliss, she's all in, man. Yeah. And she's hurt. She's had her concussion issues. She's had rib injuries and shoulder injuries. That's because she's taking an ass whooping. It's not because she's sitting she's sitting in the back collecting checks. She's doing that too, but she's also out there putting her body on the line day in and day out. And I don't understand that either. I've always thought that with her cheerleading background, her bodybuilding background, she's very athletic anyway. Yeah. And she just really puts it on display sometimes. And sometimes she'll give you a great match. And the one time that she doesn't, she sucks, apparently. That's women's wrestling in a nutshell. That's a bunch of dude talk. It's a bunch of bullshit. Like, oh my God, it's one terrible women's match, so they all suck. It's just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But Alexa in this match, Hangman's DDT for the victory, it's great. Kicked ass. Yeah. Kicked a lot of ass.
I want to hit some spots here with you. You just went through the whole match here. Bayley's elbow off the top of the rope outside the ring onto Sonya was brutal and fantastic. Yeah. Sonya's tackle of Bayley after Bayley was getting the best of them, that was out of nowhere. That was
thumped that head off the mat.
True.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. And we just spoke about Mandy. Mandy's one knee off the top rope was brutal on Bayley, was incredible as well. And that's a move that could go wrong 5 different ways. Yep. And she got that thing. The crucifix moment in the cage, getting tag teamed by Absolution when she's hung up on the cage, Bayley is, and they're just taking turns wailing away on her. I thought was a great sequence.
Stiff shots.
Exactly, right? There were some stiff shots. Banks coming in with those double knees was incredible. Mandy's head getting bounced off the turnbuckle thanks to Sasha's legs, I thought was a brilliant move. Her catching her by the neck and slamming her into there was brilliant. And Mandy being the first woman eliminated both in the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber.
History maker.
Yes, right. History. It was fantastic. Let's see. Mickie James eliminates Sonya with that 15-foot jump. So, she had her own thing coming off that top of the pod herself, but then she gets eliminated quickly, which to a lot of boos. Alexa, Sasha kicking down Bayley was a big shock. Like you said, that's when the heel turn happened. But then Alexa eliminates. Sasha caught up in the cage, and Alexa's hair pulled to the knee. That was rough. That moment was also brutal. So there was, and then Bliss hits Sasha face first in the glass, and then delivers that DDT, like the Handman DDT, as you said. So there were a lot of brutal spots in this match for a match that wasn't that long. I think it was like 18 minutes or 20 minutes, but certainly a lot of wrestling and a lot of brutal shots in this match in a short amount of time. And that speaks volumes to the level of the wrestlers you had in here and their willingness to put on a great show for the fans.
Yeah, Jim Ross says it a lot. He says you got to maximize your minutes. And I think they all did that for sure. They all had their little time to shine, except for Mickie. She didn't really have poor Mickie. She did do her thing, but she didn't have too long of a time to shine. But she's a Hall of Famer, so it doesn't really matter for her.
She's the veteran. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody did get their chance to shine. Everybody got their moment, I think. And I thought you got to put 2 younger stars over in Mandy and Sonya. Yeah. You got to see Bayley be the workhorse, the Iron Woman, if you will. Then Sasha got to take over as the Iron Woman, and then you had your chicken shit heel and Alexa Bliss come in and more or less steal the victory, which set her up against Nia Jax. But I thought it was really cool. I don't remember liking it as much as I did this time around. I remember watching it back in the day, thinking that was fine, and then I was watching it a couple days ago, and I was like, man, this is actually really exciting. I'm especially that elbow from Bayley. Ooh,
oh man,
that one hurt.
I didn't look at my phone once, and that is rare when I'm watching a wrestling match. I didn't look at my phone once because I was so enjoying the pace and the physicality and the moves and the spots by all of these women in this match, and Alexa putting the perfect cherry on top of this cake, crying into the mic, talking about your dreams and following your dreams, and for all the little girls, and then saying none of you will ever achieve your dreams.
So good.
You all suck. It was a brilliant heel move, especially because this was such a momentous occasion, the first women's ever Elimination Chamber. And we had, people breaking kayfabe and hugging and all that kind of jazz at NXT and other places. So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that Alexa might get a little emotional and have a face moment. And for her to turn it into a masterful heel moment was a brilliant decision by WWE Creative. And Alexa pulled it off like crazy. There's no one who pulls off heel/face better, in my opinion, than Alexa does.
I'll agree with you there, especially as a champion.
Yeah.
She's so good when she's champion because she's like a weasel. And I mean that in like the nicest way possible. Like she is a true heel when she wants to be. Sasha is also a true heel when she wants to be.
Oh my God, yeah.
And Bayley's learning. But it's just to watch her do her thing, I love it, man. I really do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. So what's the legacy of this match going forward? As you said, the Nia Jax situation, but also I think it led to what we were going to see later with Becky. This idea that you could have women steal the show at these big pay-per-views. Certainly this was the match I think that they were talking about more than anything coming out of this pay-per-view. And then you've got Becky right around the corner becoming the man. Because remember, this is 2018, so that thing is just right around the corner.
Yeah, it's about to blow up.
It's about to blow up. And so it's incredible to see now how women's wrestling is an essential part of the WWE now. It's an essential part of any federation. And you see it in AEW, you see it in TNA. It is a big deal to make sure you have a strong women's division in every single corporation or whatever that does wrestling.
Yeah, and I mean, you see different things in different federations, like Lucha Underground, which is something we're going to talk about in a few weeks. You had intergender matches, which is like, whoa, what the hell? Right. You had Taya Valkyrie versus Brian Cage, and we see Tessa Blanchard as the Impact World Champion. She's not the women's champion; she's the world champion.
Right.
So, women being the world champion, like a couple years ago, that would be insanity. Like, to think that that's happening in 2020 is pretty badass. Yeah. And to see, I'm sure there's little girls out there that are like, holy crap, I can be world champion, not just women's champion. That's got to be a big confidence boost. And yeah, like you said, the man started at SummerSlam. So we're about 6 months away from Becky Lynch turning on Charlotte and becoming the man Becky Lynch. So a lot of big stuff happened in 2018. Unfortunately, the Nia Jax title run is kind of thrown in there.
Yeah.
And I kind of have to bury Nia because I don't think she did a great job as the women's champion. Then again, I don't think WWE put a lot behind her. They went with that body shaming storyline, which was a bit, let's not. And then once they had that in the bag, they didn't have anything to do with her. So it's like, okay, well, she's the champion. We told this story about how you can overcome body shaming. And then you're immediately going to lose to Alexa Bliss again, who's going to lose to Ronda Rousey, and then we're just going to run with Ronda. That part I didn't really care for, but
I don't disagree with you.
It is what it is.
Yeah, and sometimes that's where you, unfortunately as a wrestler, caught up in the creatives. If you're in that in between moment, you get your time, but it's brief, right? And you, like you said, Alexa losing the belt. Nia getting it, and get all these people supporting her getting it and winning the belt, and her crying about it, which was a good moment, emotional moment, but then turning right around and then losing it again to Alexa in a great, and which I thought was a really good match actually between them, and it was believable that she got that victory, to Ronda, because they were just setting up for Ronda to come right on in here and just steamroll everybody. So all right. Anyway, so that's we see the history of the women's division just kind of flourish from here, like you said, and the Nia Jax stuff unfortunately didn't work out for her. But Alexa's still a part of the mix now. Sasha's still a part of the mix. Bayley's still a part of the mix. Certainly Sonya and
Mandy
are still part of the mix. Mickie James jumps in and out every once in a while. But overall, I think this was another big step forward in the history of professional wrestling for women to establish themselves as kind of the focal point of the WWE.
Yeah, I mean, now it's become the yearly staple. So every year we're probably going to get a women's Elimination Chamber match, which is going to be friggin' awesome. Yeah. This past year's aside, was to get one person over, which definitely helps. But if you need to get 4 or 5 people over, this is a time for them all to shine, which is what happened in this match. So it just kind of depends on what you're going to get. But yeah, this was a good one. This is a good bookmark.
Absolutely. What do we got coming up? Well, there you go. Well, let us know what you thought of the match in the comments section below. What you thought about our thoughts about the match and what you thought it meant for the legacy of women's wrestling going forward. We're only in 2020. This thing was only 2 years ago. So did it change the landscape in a positive way for women? The fact that all these, and plus I want to say this one last thing. I forgot to mention this. This is a pretty diverse situation. You've got a gay wrestler. You've got a black wrestler. You've got an older wrestler. You've got a younger wrestler. So you've got a diverse group of people involved in this match that I thought was great overall. So that's also a positive about this match as well, So there you go.
Latino as well.
Latino, right, exactly, Latino as well. So let us know down in the comment section below what you thought about this match and what you enjoyed. Aaron, what do we got coming up next?
So we got for next week, we got a big match, kind of like a month of Mania to finish out the rest of the month of March. So what we're going to have for you next week is Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon in a ladder match from WrestleMania 10 for the undisputed Intercontinental Championship. One of the best matches of all time. Yep. Super excited about that. Week after, stay tuned, stay booked in. WrestleMania 6. I know Rocha's going to blow a stack over this one. The Immortal Hulk Hogan finally going to be on the show versus the Ultimate Warrior in the Ultimate Challenge. Champion versus champion, WWF Championship match. We're going to close out the month before I go to Tampa and not get the freaking coronavirus. It's not going to happen. We're going to close out the month strong on Strong Style with Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, the show is great because it's so much fun to revisit these matches and have conversations with Aaron about them. Hope you're enjoying it as well. And as you just stated, there are 3 matches coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about and jump into. And of course, he picked the match where Hogan lost. What a shock by Aaron Turner, you son of a bitch. Anyway, either way, it's going to be fun. Guys, let us know. Tweet at us what your thoughts are. Let us suggest matches you want us to take a look at. We took a look at that Bockwinkel match from AWA. That was a lot of fun. Certainly some TNA stuff should be coming up, some Impact stuff coming up. As you mentioned, Lucha Underground stuff coming up. Some WCW, besides Booker T winning that match at Bash of the Beach, there are some fantastic WCW matches that we can take a look at and revisit as well. Maybe even some Luchador matches if we can find, get our hands on some of those great ones. And NJPW, that we're going to be focusing on those as well. So yes, we started with this way, but it's kind of our way of building into other matches coming down the road. So thanks so much to everybody who has been watching, downloading, and sending us comments, and especially leaving comments on YouTube for Strong Style. Aaron Turner, where can they find you, my man?
You can find me on Twitter at @OnlyAaronTurner, and that's where I'll be. Not contracting the coronavirus.
Please, God, no. You can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel below for all the great content on the Outlaw Nation channel. Really appreciate you all, downloading the show and being a part of the fan base here. And that's this week's episode of Strong Style.